Holy cow. Good seeing you, Mark. Now, I think, as the buyer journey has gone more self-directed, it's, content as a franchise salesperson. And I'm not sure, as a general rule, the franchisor community has really kept up on content creation, and then, the importance of it relative to getting deals across the finish line. So I'm going to present to you guys is our intellectual property for our content strategy, starting when somebody hits the form, and then continuing for the most part until an agreement is signed. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and then we're just going to get into Q&A, and then we'll get on with our lives. All good? And then cost of admission, Dave, you don't know this, and Mark, you don't know this. Cost of admission is free, but it's not really free. So we ask everybody to assign a value to whatever they get out of the session, and then pay it forward by doing a random act of kindness to somebody else. And, so when we did Google, it was pretty nice, pay it forward. And then I think when we got into the portals, I think people were giving quarters to kids to get gumball machines. Yeah. There weren't a lot of a lot of people too high on the portals. But today we're going to talk about content. All right. So what we're going to show you is our entire content strategy. It's all designed to do one thing. One, to get you on the phone with a marketing qualified potential buyer, and then second is keep that buyer engaged throughout the process. Okay, so they're in motion, they're doing research to the point where they make an educated decision about whether or not the franchise is right for them and their family. Oh, quick question. Jason, are we recording this?
We sure are.
Okay, perfect. And then also on the phone with me is Jason, who I just called on. And Jason does a lot of, he does our lead gen and also helps with content creation execution with FPG. So how do you know you got the right lead nurturing? Like what characteristics? The content is targeted. It's aimed at what a franchise buyer needs at their stage in the process. So it's a highly targeted. So we're speaking to 20 people that might be active in your pipe or going to be active in your pipeline. So think in terms of it's a wide umbrella, but a very, very targeted franchise candidate. What do they need to know to engage you in the step that they're in? Second is multiple touches. So often you might have to touch somebody 6-8 times through text, phone, and email before you're able to get them secure in your calendar. And getting, the content to get somebody in your calendar is different, than the content to prepare somebody for a discovery day. Right. So you think in terms of that. Timely, it's got to hit them right at the right time. Personalized, it's got to speak to what their needs are, or in the Sandler sales parlance, talk to their pain. It's got to satisfy a need. And then lead scoring, I will tell you for a fact, the candidates that read more buy more. So when we're working with franchise sales teams, we actually manage and monitor email reads. And the ones that are reading the emails, which you can track on Client Tether, which is a pretty popular CRM, and Fran Connect, which is the other one, you can track the reads and who's opening up content. And those are the leads. If you've got more than you can handle, those are the leads that you call first. So, when's the content strategy start, right? So, the natural buyer journey isn't from advertising to you, right? It would be if it's like Leslie Cuban's on the phone and who's a very talented and esteemed franchise broker. The franchise broker buyer journey is, from Leslie to the recruiter. So we're really talking about here digital marketing or marketing generated leads. They're going to hit the site, and often they may not be able to track them back to whatever advertising vehicle generated that lead in the first place. Jason's got the voodoo that he does to capture UTM data and track it as far as we can, but often somebody's going to go to the site direct and not hit the call to action in that particular ad. But they go to the site, and I think we talked about here, because I quizzed you guys a couple weeks ago, the average buyer that we've been able to track on websites we've designed, a buyer will spend 3 to 3.5 hours on a site and come back to our site at least 18 times. Where a lead, somebody who fills out a form but doesn't buy, they could be on the site once for less than 10 minutes and fill out a form. So the key with the website design and the content strategy is we're not trying to get somebody to fill out a form. I will assure you that that's easy. What you want to do is leverage your website as your primary content stream to create an engaged lead. That's hard. All right, that might take somebody coming back 10 visits before they fill out the form. It takes at least 90 minutes worth of content, which has got storytelling implications. It's got design implications. I'm going to do a session just on website design best practices because our websites convert at twice the national average as far as traffic to filling out a form. And then those that fill out the form also buy at a higher average. So we're particularly skilled in website design. So I'm going to show you what we do and give you access to websites that we've designed. But so this one, I'm just going to talk about website just on a high level and then get into content because we're going to do that session specifically on website design. But traffic comes in, okay, hits the site. You should have a good 90 minutes to 3 hours of solid content that keeps people coming back. They fill out a form. What we do, one of the things we're going to talk about today to incentivize form fills, we give them a second round of privileged content. We typically do it in the PDF. Some people do it in the form of videos or other content. We like to do it in a robust PDF because we could tell the story the way we want. Websites are kind of interesting in the sense that it's non-linear. So you can have a well-constructed website with a great brand story, but people are going to jump around. So, so that the story may not be layered the way you want. And people may be glossing over important things. But if you give them a PDF and you number it, they're less likely to jump around, and then you could tell the brand story the way it needs to be told. So that would be filling out the form. Did somebody raise their hand? We got a hand up.
Yeah, it's me, Joe. What do you mean by phase 2 content? Would you?
So good. Thank you. So if you go to an FPG website, we're going to have the basic content of a franchise opportunity website. And then if they fill out the form, the second they fill out the form, they're taken to a landing page where they can download more content.
Oh, okay.
So the whole second round, it's much more deeper and more robust. And it's designed to drive them, to tell more of the brand story, drive them deeper into the funnel. So, I'll give you an example. We usually will write somewhere between a 15 and 30-page ebook just for that particular brand. So here's an example one, so a couple snapshots we did for, do you guys know PokeWorks? It's a Poke QSR. This is one of the more visually stunning ones I think we've done. So it was a smaller brand, so we decided, and it's very menu focused, and people kind of they're enamored with the product. So we did food porn combined with brand story. So you can see things here. What's the mission? Everything that's on the menu, all the investment highlights, leadership bios. Locations, territories available, all of that would be here. A real robust treaty on the consumer value proposition and what makes it unique and what makes it defensible and valuable to the customer. And who's the competition and what's their brand positioning against the competition or, within the industry. That's the kind of stuff, that we would do a deep dive in. So think in terms of like a business case study, Leslie.
Yep.
So we don't try to sell it. You'll never anything we write, I don't like the typical copywriting the marketing guys do. I think they try to be too clever. They try to be too cute, and I think they stuff they write almost is buffoonery when it comes time to a serious investor. So we try to write like something that somebody would read in business school, very expository. So you're not going to read hyperbole. We're not going to have unsubstantiated superlatives like we're the best. Like, okay, by what criteria? And how do you know? Oh, thank you, Sean. Sean Goldsmith agrees. I got one of us agrees with me. So does that answer your question, Leslie?
Yes. And actually, while I have the microphone, so this secondary piece of business school grade content, they get that from a landing page after they have filled out the initial form. So what do they think they're going to get when they fill out the initial form? What is that form for? Is it for contact? Is it for something else? Like, what are they requesting when they fill out?
Yeah, it's a request for more information.
Got it.
And then in the website, they can get on a calendar and pre-qualify themselves. There's pre-qualification pages within the ebook. And then there's also hyperlinks to the recruiter's calendar inside the ebook. So the call to action is always get on the calendar.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we stair step it with information. And then, so if by the time somebody hits a website, if we get, let's say, our average client's generating 200 leads a month or thereabouts, they're going to have a steady state of 15 to 20 closable leads in the pipe. So a good, they should be able to reach 30 to 40% of those leads, and another 30 to 40% of those reached will engage. Our lead to app rate is usually off of advertising generated leads, somewhere between 4 and 8%. We'll get to we'll fill out an application and be qualified to kind of give you some metrics. So kind of get into the strategy of lead nurturing. So we're basically running 2 programs for every lead once somebody fills out a form. So the first campaign we're running is going to be the one in the gray on the left. And that will be a 10 to 14-day campaign. We'll touch them probably 8 to 13, probably about 11 times, including phone. We recommend 3 phone calls, 3 texts, and 5 emails. And there's diminishing marginal returns after the first call, first text, first email, right? So, I'm not a big speed to lead guy because I think the buyers are return calls, the buyers respond to emails, the buyers respond to text, but I am a responsible contact guy. Does a buyer expecting a return call within the first 5 minutes of filling out a form? I would say no. Do they expect it within the same business day? And certainly within 24 hours, yes. And with electronic means, there's no reason you can't contact them by text and by email within the first 10 minutes and let them know you'll be calling, plus the extension you'll be calling from, so it doesn't roll into voicemail or you get screened out. Make sense? And then we like to send attachments. So we're still over here in lead nurturing. So we've got emails. Well, I'll show you one that looks like that's just requesting a meeting. And then as we get further And if they're not responding at first, we're sending out more information like franchisee testimonials, like maybe information on a store, restaurant, or franchisee that just opened, some brand news, so something that would engage a franchise buyer. And then after 14 days, there's only two outcomes. Right? They're on the calendar or they're not. Right? So if they're not on the calendar, we kick them into a category of non-responders, and we just drip them once every 2 weeks to once every month forever. Because why not? Doesn't cost us anything. And the CRMs are designed to do that. And if they do respond, then they will not only get the content created for non-responders, they're going to get a level of specialty content that's designed for steps in the process. And I'll show you what that looks like a little later. So that's our total lead nurturing strategy. We probably use more content in recruiting. Bryce is one of our recruiters. He's on the phone today. So the quality of the content and some of the content we have, he'll be using more content than most recruiters. Mark Pataki,
Hey,
what do you
Joe.
got for me, bro?
Hey, when you're sending your texts out, are you trying to get them to the site and schedule a call, or are you sending them links for videos and ebooks and so on?
Well, text, you're really limited,
Right.
often to 150 characters. I'll show you what one of the texts looks like in a bit, but the texting is to get on the calendar. So we're not sending them to the website because they've already been there.
Yep.
Right? It's the only place they haven't been is on our calendar, and that's where we're trying to get them.
Okay.
So here's a typical email that we're sending out. So there's really design limitations with a lot of CRMs that we use. So we use something that represents the brand on the top. This particular one, we get right into the steps of the process right away. Like, thank you for researching. Step one, okay, read the franchise information ebook. And we always attach the ebook to all the initial information, even though they probably downloaded it from the website. We just want to keep that ebook top of the pile because it's a influential piece of content. Step two, here's our pre-qualification. Read this and see if you qualify for our business. You have to have 500K net worth, 100K liquidity, 660 credit, no criminal history. That's the typical SBA stuff. Step three, schedule an appointment. Now that button will link right to the franchise recruiter's calendar. And then step four, if you really want to get to the top of the pile and be shown preferential treatment, okay, then submit your financials. And then they click here, and that will go, at least in Fran Connect, it will go right to the application that they can fill out and submit, that gets uploaded into the CRM. And we promise here that we're going to call them first and right away and give them first consideration, wherever territory they're looking at. So kind of clean, and it gets them to think process right away. With Playables, which is a high-flying client we're working with right now, we've actually reversed that. There's so much interest in this chain that we're tracking at doing over 40 franchisees this calendar year. We've already done 22, and it's accelerating. So we actually have the financials as a requirement to submit before they get on the calendar. I don't recommend that, but we're getting 15 applications, full financials in a week, 12 to 15 on Playables as a prerequisite just for a conversation. And people are doing it no problem. Okay, then the texts go out. So I do recommend that a franchisee recruiter, you have an SMS campaign. Okay, and I also recommend before you make your first call, text them, because you don't want it to roll in the voicemail. So hi Tara, this is my wife, by the way. But this is what we would do. We'd send it out. I'm your primary point of contact. Requested information. I need 5 minutes. Do you have it now? That's one of the things people respond to most. They'll either say, either call me now or now's bad. Can you call me an hour or 2 hours? But now you're engaged and you can make an appointment. Now that's not an SMS campaign. SMS campaign with, with 100 limited to 150 characters, 160 characters looks like, this is Tara from brand. You requested franchise information. Here's a link to my calendar. And we talk for 5. That kind of gets that kind of runs out your 150 characters right there. Spaces are characters too. If you ever do it, for the, Sean, I love the idea of requiring to get some form of indication available capital prior to booking. So very good. So Sean wants to get an idea of their finances before booking. Now, what we have on their form is they're declaring their liquidity, they're declaring their net worth. And sometimes, depending on the concept, we have a required form fill estimating their credit score. Does that answer your question, Sean?
Yes, sorry. Thank you. That was great.
Perfect. I'll just kind of keep going here, but it's good as you have the questions. I'm here for you. You're not here for me, right? So just keep firing away the questions or the comments. Now, if I go into back into like this gray, now we're going to move out of the gray and we're going to start going into this 12-month nurturing content for responders or non-responders, and then content that we send to people as they enter the process. So now, so think in terms of, okay, lead comes in, you're on a 10 to 14 day nurturing program while you're calling, right? So to try to get an appointment, and while you're calling and while you're sending out other texts too to get an appointment, and they either responded or they didn't. Now they're going to send out more campaigns. So when somebody's in process, I like to touch them between calls. So what do you touch them with? I call it evergreen content. In other words, it's always relevant, and it's relevant regardless of where they are in the process, and it's relevant if they're non-responders. So our category of evergreen content would be franchisee testimonials or success stories. I like customer testimonials. So when I'm designing content for a client, I'll go into the reviews, for Google or Travelocity, or depending on whatever the review sites are, for that particular brand, and find some cool things people say. Maybe even on Amazon if it's a particular product, reviews that people do, and I'll add that to an email and I'll send that out. Industry data. People want to know what's going on in the industry. Yeah, and then maybe with a little some content on, so I like industries that are in particular. I'll highlight them if they're growing faster than 3%. Right, so 3% is kind of the level of the GDP. It typically grows at in and around, it's less now, but in and around 3%. So so if the industry is growing at 3%, it's basically you're breaking even. If it's growing at 5 or 6%, which some industries do, that's the rising tide that raises all boats, right? So so I do like to highlight industry trajectory, as well as work in the brand position within the industry. I like statements of value. So anything where we can demonstrate or have demonstrated value to the community or value on the product. And that could be a client testimonial, but it could also be a supplier testimonial or other ways of communicating value. And then I like to highlight business attributes. So like we just took on a client who's the premier elite hockey training school for elite youth players in Canada, is now opening, in the States. And the guy who put together all the methodology was a Stanley Cup winning coach. So they have a real innovation advantage as it relates to their students relative to all the other camps and training in the United States. Nobody's seen anything like what this guy's bringing from Canada into the States, and have opened up in Denver where he won the Stanley Cup. And then Sean says one of his franchisees does that for soccer. Yeah, so highlight the business attributes, highlight the value, highlight the technology, highlight being in use. Bryce is on the phone with us now, and he's just started this company. It's brilliant. They do automotive alloy tire repairs on premise. Because the car dealers and the large automobile repair businesses, they don't really know how to do that work. They'll just generally replace the wheel at $600, $1,200. These guys can paint the wheel and basically have mobile paint booths. And by the time it comes out of the painting, it looks like it's factory new, even though it's been color matched. And they do it for $150. So they get a steady stream of business, but it's proprietary technology, it's a proprietary rig, it's a proprietary work order. And, look, there's no shortage of genius, I think, in the United States of America. This is a great country, and we can make money a lot of different ways. But highlighting that particular brand's area of genius is really important. Because on the website, I think we're more about, we talk about general, how does the business work? But the lead nurturing and when they get in process, that's where we can get more specific. Thank you, Sean. Sean, did you want to hook up with Bryce offline? You could put your email in the chat box. And then in a concept like we work with Mountain Mike's, which is a high growth concept. We also work with, I was telling you, Pliables, which is adding 40 franchisees here. If you're a bricks and mortar business, every time you sign an agreement, there's 3 announcements, right? There's the new franchisee that's come on board, like the old "Here we grow again." They sign a lease or they go through training, right? That's announcement number 2, coming soon. Then announcement number 3 is the grand opening. And you could even get announcement number 4 a year from now. What did you learn? Yeah. So existing franchisees at their different stages of growth and different stages of opening is great content. And then the typical awards, entrepreneur, etc. So that's everybody gets that content. That's the evergreen stuff. And then there's content we create for our clients and for ourselves because we are an FSO, depending on where we are in the business. So let's take reading the FDD. Anybody ever lost a deal because somebody read something into the FDD that really wasn't there? It's just because they don't know about FDDs. So, we have a 4 or 5 page article about how to read an FDD, what's in all 23 items, what you need to be looking for, and what you could be reading too much into. Right. And what makes franchising really work. Right. So we have articles to try to take this sting out. And in our process, you read this article before you get the FDD. Second would be, how do you finance a business? I think people have a lot of mischief around how to get a business financed. So we give them a good treaty on the typical 5 different ways people finance businesses, and starting with the most expensive or highest, probably least expensive and lowest risk dollars. So HELOC, then ROBS, then SBA. And then when you start incorporating friends and families and partnerships, well, that becomes very expensive money, in my opinion. Especially a partnership. A good partnerships, it's cheap money because 1 + 1 = 3 because they're bringing skills to the table. But if they're not bringing in complementary skills where 1 + 1 = 3, you don't do partnerships. So we even talk about this in the article. 1 + 1 = 2 is a bad partnership, and you don't do that. And then if it's less than that, obviously, I've been in subtractive partnerships, and that's that's awful and expensive. Then move to franchisee validation. So we have franchisee validation, best practice guide. We also may layer in a pro forma. It was zeroed out, so we're not violating any FTC guidelines, but to make it really easy for financial modeling. Coming into Discovery Day, we have a Discovery Day best practice guide. Yeah, so in there would be the agenda, in there would be the bios of everything you're going to be meeting with. And then part of step in our process is before you come to Discovery Day, let's start mapping out all the questions that you have. Let's make sure we're directing them to the right people. So we have the bios, we have the agenda, we have the guide that talks about how to get organized in their thought. And then we have a meeting to get them organized. And obviously a debrief at the end. And then, we have if you go into our CRMs, we have boilerplate announcements like here, make it really easy for somebody like Bryce in our company to craft a deal announcement or craft a grand opening or craft a launch. Just all they have to do is fill in the copy in the red, and then they're done. And then franchisee testimonials. I like video. It just gets like wicked expensive if you don't have it in the budget. So I like to do video. We've toyed with the idea to try to make it more expensive of putting together mobile studios, because now we have the, like for example, it'd be like, I don't know if you can't see my camera, but I got a 4K camera which is what I'm speaking you through. I've got a the Mac Daddy, of a microphone. That's really all you need, right? So sending those in a box to franchisees with a list of questions we want them to answer, and then come back, have them record it, like recording this session, and then we do the edits. So that might be a less expensive way to get really good franchisee testimonial content, as opposed to sending out a film crew, right? And you can imagine how that expensive that gets. Or if you have a film crew and you're at your national conference, we should always be capturing B-roll and franchisee testimonials at these visits. And that's what these franchisee testimonials were. Or if we're doing out to a grand opening, right, there's always a franchisee testimonial. Or if we're finishing up a training class, you got franchisees there, get testimonials. In the absence of testimonials, what we have also is a guide where we send out a list of questions to franchisees. They send us back the answers, and we edit it into an article. Well, yeah, and then put their picture on it, and that works well too. So it'll read like a more of a long form interview. Questions on that? John.
Yeah, so we use a system called Hippo Video that does when we send it out to the candidates, they've got a video with a personal introduction that can happen straight from a phone, and then below it includes the key information about the franchise, little video on the testimonials and all that kind of stuff. Have you guys
doing the video? You have just a video crew do that?
No. So I'm, ironically enough, I'm actually quite a big believer in non-produced videos. I feel like they come across as very authentic, and that people kind of believe them. So even with the franchisee testimonials across the US and Canada, we just get the guys to get one of these bad boys, these little stands, and an iPhone. I mean, there's been a number of movies that have got Academy Awards being shot on iPhone. So we just get them to do an iPhone video for us. Just to me, at least, it feels like it's completely real.
So I'm with you on that. So I would say not no production value. Our philosophy would be low production value.
Yeah, we edit. You edit it, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but I wouldn't want it shaking, and the sound is really important.
Yeah, and we get these little guys, and we just get them to buy one of these for $10 or so on.
When you say Amazon. These little guys, I don't know your point. I can't see.
Sorry, it's a little microphone, little
lavalier microphone or something.
Yeah, it's a little lapel mic that you just plug into your iPhone, and it does a really good job. What I've found is when we are sending out our initial email to prospects, within it's got a little GIF of say myself speaking.
Yeah.
And they click on that, and then all of a sudden they're on a very different kind of landing page with all kinds of information on. It seems to work pretty well for me, actually.
That's
I'll-
really good feedback.
I'll put a I'll
And
put an
iPhone
example
videos
in,
are really good. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, like my iPhone's at 4K now.
yeah.
Yeah, and the sound's actually quite good. But to your point, it's better. Those little level air mics. We used to use those when we were taking film crews around because they're convenient.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
I've put a link on what we do.
That's
basically,
excellent.
Our video. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that, Sean. I appreciate that.
No worries.
So I'm going to give you a little cheat my brother gave me. So I have 4 brothers. I'm one of 5. I'm the second oldest, and we grew up in a kind of a lower income, very Italian, ethnic Italian, and quite frankly, kind of a mobbed up neighborhood. And my younger brother is off the charts genius, like an absolute genius. He was on Jeopardy, when he was 21 years old, and he beat out, 10,000 people in Connecticut, which isn't really a dumb state. And now he's 50. For 30 years, we got a lot of leverage on this. He answered, who is Fabio? And he got it right. So if you know who Fabio is, other than being really smart, you might have something else going on, because that Fabio is the model for all the Harlequin romance novels in the 80s and the 90s. Isn't that funny? But anyway, so my brother's a very good writer, and he cracked me open as a writer. So I used to send him stuff. He sounds like me when he speaks, and he writes consistent with how I would want to sound, although he's a better writer than I am. So I used to send him my stuff, and I get stuck, and he'd say, all right, stop writing. How would you say it? And I would say, well, I would say it like this. He goes, put it on the page. And after he told me, 10 times, just speak to the page, then it kind of dawned on me, oh, yeah, I'll just start speaking to the page. So if anybody's ever read anything I've written, it sounds like a conversation. And it sounds like a conversation because I don't know how to write. So... yeah, and it sounds like a conversation because to help me get over the fact that I don't know how to write, I just speak to the page. So it sounds like I'm speaking to you when I'm writing. And that took my writing time way, way, way down. So if you ever have to write something, like, don't worry about sentence structure. Just, how would you say it? And you'll get there 5 times faster. And then editing, Upwork, I just pull people off of Upwork. I kind of rotate the editors. You find a good one, you keep them. That's like $40 an hour. They don't make a ton of money. So just get it proved, get it edited by somebody who actually has a degree in English and writes for a living. And then here we go, ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is taking my writing time down for short articles from 3 hours to 30 to 45 minutes. So this is what I do with ChatGPT. I pull it open and I put in the command, write me a 300-word, because that's a nice short article. Put it in perspective, like a Word document is about 200 to 300 words to give it some perspective. So give me a 1-pager, basically, right, on whatever topic. So like how to overcome startup fears. And then you just hit send, and you get good C or C+ content, but I would say in that C+ content, there's B+, A- ideas, and a pretty decent outline. So that's what I use it for. And then I read what they write. I delete everything I don't like, and and then I say, well, okay, that's a good idea, but how would I say it? And I just rewrite all that stuff in my own voice, and then I add a call to action, and then I'm done. And then when you read it, it doesn't sound like ChatGPT. It sounds like Joe Matthews. And it sounds exactly like something I would have written, because I did write it. And I don't know, for anybody who's not a writer, the hard part sometimes is just getting started. And once you kind of get in the flow, it gets easy to get that stuff done. So for me, it's coming up with the idea is easy, but putting together the outline and then cutting up with the sentence, that's hard for me. It takes me a long time. And that just, saves, it just saves a ton of energy because, they get I don't know where they get their information, it's like voodoo, but, at the end of the day, you can take C content I would never publish what ChatGPT comes up with, but rewrite it and put it in your own words, and it will be very serviceable. So I'll just kind of stop there, and I'm going to send this deck out to everybody so everybody has our strategy, which I think is should be pretty easy to follow and execute if you have the will. And then I'll answer any questions or observations or any particular content ideas that you guys have that works well. And like, Sean talked about how he does franchisee testimonials. Doing it.
I have a question, Joe.
Sure.
It's Joel. One of the things I'm curious about from your texting perspective, does your messaging ever change as you're sending 3 texts to these candidates, or is it just intentional, get on my calendar and just kind of playing with the verbiage at that point?
I would say that when you're dealing with 150 characters, there's not a whole lot you can do, right?
Right.
Otherwise, it shows up as multiple texts and it looks obnoxious. So I would say that when we're about ready to call, we would probably be a little bit more creative than that kind of simple automated text. The emails change.
Yeah. So
the last email, it might be a little too. I'm from the Northeast, right? So we shoot straight. Our last email is a close your file email, we call it. And last text is close your file. We've tried multiple times to reach you. Sounds like you went in a different direction. We're going to close your file for doing this in error. Here's how you get on our calendar. And that actually, other than the first email, that's the one that gets the most response. So if you're not, if you don't have a close the file, now some people it sounds too abrupt, but that's what shocks people into action because. I think there's some unwitting paradigm, Joel, in franchising where the buyer thinks the buyer's entitled to it anytime the buyer wants it.
No, I agree with you. I think it creates scarcity to a certain point because once you get to that point and you're saying, okay, you're not important to us anymore, then wait a minute. No, I'm important. I'm going to get back to you, right? So I think it's really important to use that pull away strategy at the end because at the same time, our time's valuable also. And we're saying in no uncertain terms, Northeast or not, that if you want to be part, or if you want to be part of this process, then you need to get back to me because we're moving on. And I think it creates a sense of urgency for them that they don't want to be left out as well.
Yeah, we do franchisee recruitment for Sandler Sales, which is a sales training academy. They do about 150 million. They got 200 offices around the country. And the guy, my point of contact, his quote is, "You won't close 100% of your deals, but you should close 100% of your files."
Yeah, I get it completely.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
For that reason. Thank you, Joel.
Yep.
Joe, I've got a question. Have you ever targeted specific industries for franchise sales? So one of the brands I own is called Skill Samurai, and because of our friends called ChatGPT and the various other AIs, the IT industry is shedding people like mad. And those are actually in many ways our ideal candidates. I had a couple that's MIT graduates that were the other day. So in terms of targeting a specific industry, knowing that under the cover of darkness, all these big tech companies are shedding staff like mad. Have you ever targeted industries like that?
Yeah. So we target industries and we target companies sometimes, brands. So if I'm working with a food concept, let's say, because they have a lot of multi-unit, multi-brand concepts, like Crumble Cookie, for instance. We're working with Mountain Mike's. All of a sudden, 2 Crumble Cookie franchisees invest in Mountain Mike's. That's all I need to know. I call them up. What's going on with Crumble Cookies that you guys are coming here and not investing in more Crumble Cookies? That's my content. And then it goes out to every crumble cookie franchisee. You know,
Yeah.
Marco's Pizza, and Dave Crowley actually brought me into Marco's. We used to target Subway franchisees, and that was almost 50% of the development.
Well, that's
And
'cause
then
none of
Rebath.
the Subway guys make any money. That's why.
Rebath was interesting. Rebath, all the development for the most part were existing remodeling contractors that converted to Rebath, and the Rebath has a genius system for pulling and replacing bathrooms. So they don't do demolition.
Yeah,
And they're not moving walls, which is kind of where all the mischief comes in. They just pull a vanity, put in a new vanity, pull a toilet, put in a new one, pull a shower, put in a new one. So all their projects are 1 to 5 days, and their margins are twice the national average of a contractor. And so contractors that were doing, custom kitchens and custom baths, they're in the house for 6 days. And some guy hit me with a line, which we used in the advertising. This guy he was doing $30 million in remodeling, and he bought a Rebath to migrate his entire operation over to Rebath. I said, why would you do that? Doing $30 million in sales, you don't need Rebath. His answer was, here's what Rebath has that I don't. He goes, you know what contractors, and fish have in common? I said, no, what? He goes, we all stink after 3 days. He goes, I do this amazing job, and after the second week, all my time is spent in client relationships because they hate me. And they hate my crew, and they can't get us out of the house fast enough. We're too disruptive. Yeah. So, and then you guys got twice the margins. He goes, it's a better mousetrap. And I said, ding, 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 ding. That was all our content.
So the other question I have is I've noticed worldwide. So we work in, I don't know, we've got 8-9 countries around the world. And one thing we've noticed is a massive move away from QSR by the big multi-units. Is that happening in America too?
More so.
Yeah.
I'm going into probably my 40th year. I've never seen food guys not invest in food stuff. And I would say in the last 5 years, I've seen more of it than any other time in my career. Yeah.
And education so I've got 2 franchises, and I'd really like to speak to you separately anyway. But
Sure.
one does exactly what you just described with the hockey, but with multiple sports. So guys getting scholarships into colleges across the states.
Nice.
And the other one is Skill Samurai, which is an AI/STEM academy. Are people moving over to those kind of sectors, or?
Yeah, so let's stick with STEM and AI. So we would say there's that would be in the education industry, which kind of chunks down into 2 buckets, right? Bucket 1 would be remedial, like my kid can't read, right? So that generally is pretty stable usually, although the market leaders are seemingly having a little hard time with that. The Sylvans and the Huntington. Sylvan was just bought by Unleashed Brands. And then the second would be enrichment, right? So the enrichment is, how do I give my kid an edge?
Yeah.
Right. And that was seemingly more going into STEM and coding and that kind of you kind of see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do both. That's one of our things. We're bringing English and so we already do math, but we do Singapore math. And then all the coding and the game code and engineering, everything all under one banner. So
yeah, I mean, Mathnasium got to 2,000 units or thereeabouts, just doing math drills.
I'm gonna whip their backsides. Don't you worry.
Sean, this is Joel. If you want to reach out, to me separately, I've introduced children's education brands in over 65 countries all over the globe.
Nice.
So, and I say that because I have to do some things on LinkedIn that might be helpful for you, but using Wizza, where you can get particular profiles and things along those lines, and finding people that want to diversify their portfolio but stay within education or go outside of education. So just you can ping me on LinkedIn, and then I can give you some of the ideas that I'm using.
Feel free to put your contact information in the chat box.
Yeah. Thank you.
My
What
pleasure.
else? Thank you, Joel. Leslie, what are the brokers doing in the way of content strategy?
It's all over the board. I mean, I can speak for myself. I invest, I have a marketing team, and I am the driver behind a lot of, thought leadership, not only just on, how to buy a franchise, but what I see, what does that same person need to expect to succeed once they are a franchise owner? So I'm writing content
Yes.
on, you're a new franchise owner, do this, don't do that.
Leslie, why don't you put a link up to some of your content? Maybe that's something other people, do you mind people taking your content and backlinking it?
I mean, yeah, LinkedIn is my main platform.
Got it. Okay. So if
Just-
guys go to, is it okay if people want to backlit some of your content? Because I know it's good.
Sure.
Okay. So if you guys look up Leslie, she's a prolific writer, great communicator, and does good stuff. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
So she posts on LinkedIn. So if you guys want to backlink content on LinkedIn, that could be helpful too. Other questions or comments? Well, this might be a good jump off point then. Okay. So before we jump off, we're going to meet again in 2 weeks. So next week, I'm actually going to go on a cruise. So my first vacation in a while. So thank you guys for letting me schedule that on an off week. And then also, we have to assign a value, right, for whatever value you think you took out of this, and then just pay it forward. One random act of kindness per session. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And then if you get value also, my request would be post the value on LinkedIn, because we're going to be doing, I think, more of these sessions. And I'd like to start building the FPG Franchise Sales and Leadership Academy brand within franchising. So if you don't mind posting something on LinkedIn about the value or the quality work or any ahas have you gotten, I'd really appreciate any feedback you can give the general franchising market. So thank you guys. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.